We're back on Total War Shogun 2, and the warrior monks of the Uesugi clan have come out to play. These bad boys are the hybrid elites of feudal Japan, the Phoenix Guard of the Sengoku Jidai period, except instead of Azurian, we've got Bishamonten, the war god, and instead of a big ward save and high armor, they're basically running around naked with their dicks out. Great melee defense, great combat skill, they can skewer cav, they can shish kebab infantry, they just have really crappy armor, so they might as well be naked. So if they get shot by arrows, they become very sad very quickly. Now this Japanese clan is an iconic one in history, in large part due to the brilliance of their daimyo Kenshin, and they're one of the most fun clans to play in Shogun 2 because of their focus on warrior monks. We're going for a theme build here, but the unit that really helps anchor the line in this battle are the marathon monks, and they're really interesting from both a historical and a present-day perspective. So the Tendai school of Buddhism teaches that enlightenment can be reached in a single lifetime, which differs from most of the other sects, but to reach it, the marathon monks undergo the Kyougyo, essentially a double marathon every single day for 100 days straight a year for 7 consecutive years. Only 50 or so people have completed the challenge in the last 150 years, so it's pretty insane test of endurance and mental fortitude. But what makes them special is they're incredibly fast, to be expected obviously, and they have an AoE second wind ability which instantly refreshes the fatigue of up to 4 nearby units. So you can imagine that can pay some pretty serious dividends late in a battle. But we're facing off against the Oda Clan, some of the great unifiers of Japan who have their own unique unit, the long Yari Ashigaru. These dudes are essentially pikes, absolutely brutal from the front when they're in spear wall, and that is a nightmare for monk units, because the only thing that actually lets you engage frontally into a spear wall is good armor, meaning Naginata Samurai and Bulletproof Samurai are pretty much the only 2 units in the game that can do decently charging headlong into veteran Ashigaru spear walls. So instantly, right off the bat, things are looking a little bit scary from an army composition perspective, especially because he's got 4 bow warrior monks, and I only have 3, so while I'm forced into attacking his spears, I also have to get shot by highly accurate long-range arrow fire. So what do? Use our speed and flank, flank, flank as his light cavalry tries to do the same to us. Throw a couple units up the center as fodder, get in behind, and break up those pike formations. Their single biggest disadvantage is their mobility. You can abuse that with speed because they're super slow in phalanx. You can get around the flank, and if you surround them well, once you get past those spears, they take out their katana and wakizashi, and then that Ashigaru morale starts crumbling. But it's definitely going to be a little bit tricky when you're under fire from some really highly accurate and long-range bow fire. Now, he hasn't actually unveiled it yet, but I am going to spoil it here. He has fire rockets as well, which are even longer range, completely deadly to cavalry, so my Great Guard and Yari Cav will be under a lot of fire from those if I'm not careful, and they can also kill your gen and your infantry pretty easily as well. So fire rockets are kind of a game changer, and when he unveils those, that will be a problem for me, and we'll see how that goes. So I have Great Guard and Marathon Monk stationed out on the flanks to deal with his cavalry. Killing his calves not going to be very hard. He does have 2 Great Guard, but he has 2 light cav, or maybe 3 light cav. We have enough to definitely deal with that. The skirmish fight is really where things get tricky in the beginning stages of this game, because like I said, he's got 4 bow warrior monks. I only have 3. That's a pretty big disadvantage in terms of a skirmish fight, and I'm basically going to have to open up with whistling arrows, which isn't very devastating. I mean, these are fire arrows right here, but whistling arrows will follow up shortly thereafter to debuff the enemy bow monks. But when you do that, you lose your damage output because it just debuffs. It doesn't actually do a lot of damage, and that means I'll take some pretty bad shots early on. Great Guard charging into the light cav. The light cav will be dead pretty much directly off the charge, but really good move here. He actually rear charges my Uesugi warrior monks. It's a good charge to the light cav and devastates them. That's what I'm talking about when I say low armor. Light cav are not good, but they will hurt you bad. There was 50 kills on warrior monks right off the bat, and fire rockets ripping into my general's bodyguard and into my Great Guard and dropping a lot of my cavalry there. So my bow warrior monks are getting skewered from long range. I cannot sit around and take this. I'm just taking way too much damage, so I need to push up, and I have to basically concede the fact that my bow warrior monks probably won't do a whole lot this game because he's already shredding them all right now. But what I gotta do is get my marathon monks and my warrior monks out on the flank and get around behind those spear walls to shut it down. But there's so much going on right now in terms of skirmish fire. The fire rockets firing in, but warrior monks firing in. I'm giving him a lot of time to shoot my front line, and that's pretty problematic at the moment. most of my units are lining up to go around the spear wall, while my Yari Samurai look to sacrifice themselves in the center because they have higher armor. But the Oda only have eyes for my gen, like a kid in a candy store, man. Licking their lips with anticipation, trying to kill my daimyo early and cause those famous mass routes. General's bodyguard just drowning in a hail of explosive shells. Would have been much better served just mounting him up, honestly, and sprinting him to the other side of the map than trying to stand and fight there, but I just kind of panicked. Didn't know what to do with him because he was under fire from the fire rockets, and he goes down pretty early there, or at least routes, and I think he might have died there, I'm not 100% sure. But the Great Guard will charge in. He's really blobbed up with his cav, which will honestly not be the worst thing in that situation unless it gets rear charged. But my Yari Sams, yeah, I think my general just went down there. And now my Yari Samurai going up into the spear wall here, just trying to sacrifice themselves and buy time for my Naginata Warrior Monk Corps to get around and behind the spear wall. Now, this is how you use Warrior Monks. This is how you deal with spear walls in general. You use your mobility to get around. It's very hard to micro phalanxes. It honestly really is. They just don't have a lot of mobility. And then once you finally get in behind, you force them to turn around, and you can attack them from multiple sides, and that is when they start dying like flies. Beautiful engagement there, completely surrounded, and that will be a pretty good fight for me there. Now, one thing I haven't talked about yet, Warrior Monks do have a unique ability called War Cry, which demoralizes up to 4 nearby enemy units. It will lower their morale, it lowers their melee defense, and it lowers their speed too, I believe, which isn't very impactful, but it can still help in a few situations. It's not like a net or anything. They can still move pretty easily, but lowers their speed just a bit, so it's harder for them to run away. So that's insanely good. It's very good in pretty much every situation. You wait until you see them in like yellow morale, pop War Cry, and you can get some units to route that way. So I'm going to be trying to use that War Cry to its fullest potential here, cause some earlier routes than normally would occur. Now remember that you can waste that ability and you can't stack it either. You can't plop War Cry like 4 times in a row and get a unit to instantly route. It doesn't work that way, but still can be very good in certain situations to cause a mass route than earlier would happen. So trying to use that, you can see my front line has been decimated, but I still have pockets of these Warrior Monks with this insane mobility and speed, just running around trying to get into high value targets like his general. And I've gotten in there into a stand and fight as one of my Warrior Monks goes down here, and I should be able to kill his gen, but we got fire rockets firing in it as well, and that can be pretty devastating to my Warrior Monks. So I need to try and shut down that artillery crew, or they're going to put the hurt on me pretty bad. Looks like Yari Cav or maybe Great Guard have dropped the hammer on those Oda Bow Warrior Monks. They were microed well to get out of that sticky situation with my own flanking units, but now, without the protection of a unified spear wall, they can be run down by my cavalry, or what's left of it, and my Marathon Monks. And fatigue is beginning to set in for my troops, which shouldn't matter because I've got 2 units with second wind on the field. And look, we know the dramatic debuffs you get when you're exhausted. Melee effectiveness can be essentially cut in half. So with the ability to get my units fresh again, could be game changing here. But so much work left to do. Balance bar has been massively in favor of the Oda since that pretty horrific skirmish stage for me. And it's just now beginning to even out just a bit. We got a great melee engagement off, but we had taken so many losses on the way in. It's still not going to be an easy conclusion to this battle. There is a bug in Shogun 2 with Oda, Long Yari Ashigaru, and maybe regular Yari Ashigaru as well. When they're in Spear Wall, sometimes when they route, they just stand still, and you can actually lose units running into those phalanxes. So you've got to be careful with that. That unit's bugged out, but it just broke now. And now we got to focus on the last couple Yari units. After that, we focus on the Bow Warrior Monks and the routing fire rockets. After that, we'll win, but we need to do a lot before we get to that point, and it may not be that easy. So, yeah, those broken guys, you can die on those if you run into those spears. Now, we've gotten into the just a perfect engagement on these Long Yari Ashigaru. They're in a big, scary, mean phalanx, but they can't point their spears every direction. It'd be kind of cool if that was the formation in Shogun 2, but it's not. Probably because of balance. It'd be pretty broken if you could just sit in a big square. And now, surrounded by what's honestly much more elite infantry, we'll be able to butcher them. That's the thing with Yari Ashigaru in general, though. You don't have to be elite to kill people. You just need to present a very scary, long line of pikes. And it doesn't matter how elite you are. If you can't actually get close to the enemy, you're not going to do any damage. We were able to there because we completely surrounded them, cut them to pieces. All good there. So that was a really big engagement. We just routed the most important unit left on the field, But this is still not even remotely over, because the big issue here now is the fact that he has 3 bow warrior monks left, and we only have warrior monks. The very low armor, basically naked guys running around, and if he's given time to fire, all these units that I have are all so beaten up, their morale is dropping a bit here. I mean, he could very easily end up shredding the rest of my army. So I gotta be careful with how I take these engagements and make sure I shut down those the bow infantry. But first, deal with this last unit of long Yari Ashigaru. They're barely in a spear wall at this point. They're just so spread out that they weren't able to present a good wall of pikes, a good wall of spears in general. Able to outflank them, pop Warcry, they routed. All good on that front. Now his fire rockets have come back, and this is a very depleted Naginata warrior monk unit trying desperately to chase after his bow warrior monks, and the fire rockets getting a nasty shot in there, man. You see those dudes go flying about 50 feet. The fire rockets are incredibly satisfying. One of the coolest units in the game, for sure. From a historical perspective, probably not that impressive in terms of actual historical authenticity, but it doesn't matter, man. I still love a little teeny bit of fantasy in there just to get a little bit more interesting units, because, I mean, let's be honest, if there wasn't a little bit of fantasy elements in this in terms of katana samurai, there's really no such thing. Back in the day, I mean, we'd have literally no unit variety, and this game would be pretty boring. So I'm glad they added a little bit of that. But we're going to chase after with the warrior monks here, trying to get into the bow warrior monks here. His fire rockets are still a problem, and they're a long way away, so I need to send a unit to deal with them as well. But he is kiting very efficiently at the moment. Can't outrun warrior monks, though, and we got a nice charge in there, gunning a bunch of the bows with our Naginata. And now we're going to get to see that awesome animation. Some of the crazy-ass animations they mocap for Shogun 2. We're going to block a katana strike, smack him in the face, got him. So satisfying. Blood fountaining into the air, painting the snow crimson there. Super fun to watch that. And now my marathon monks sprinting. Seems like they're almost as fast as cavalry. They move quick. They got their asses moving right now. We're going after the fire rockets and looking to shut them down. So yeah, getting that fresh fatigue in the late game here has paid huge dividends. Means we're able to actually catch up and seek out and destroy all these skirmish units. And that's just so important, because if I wasn't able to catch them, you would just shoot me to death and we would lose straight up right from there. But at this point, Oda just don't have enough to take the battle back from the Uesugi, getting punctured on the front with some pole arms, siding that unit in half, painting the snow with just a bit more blood. Honestly, the blood pack is so ridiculously over the top in Shogun 2, probably even more so than in Warhammer, but I love the style of it. I feel like it fits somehow, even though it makes no sense from like a logical perspective. It's just really artistic in its own macabre way. I don't know, it's really cool. But yeah, hopefully that battle demonstrated how to deal with Yari walls. They can be very devastating. I have a lot of experience dealing with them and losing to them. But honestly, yeah, I think I deserved that win, if I'm gonna say so myself. I messed up with my general, but that infantry engagement was a thing of beauty, again, if I do say so myself, and there is a 0% chance they would have gotten those kill counts. We're going to see them here. My Naginata, I think one of them almost got 400. They would have gotten those kind of kills if I was just mindlessly throwing them into melee. It just doesn't work that way. Naginata warrior monks will get butchered if you charge in from the front, because they have no armor. They just die right off the charge. So making sure you're charging into the non-pointy end when a whole battle is going on takes some serious micro, but it's really rewarding, and that's one of the things that I love about this game. But Apachatura's bow monks, man, they put the hurt on me bad. So did his fire rockets, racking up some really nice kills there. He stomped me in the skirmish fight and basically completely forced me to rush into an engagement that I ended up taking pretty well. But I think someone who doesn't have 1,300 hours on the game would have maybe thought about just rushing straight into the spear wall and would have died horribly. So thankfully, one of the things I've learned a lot in my times on Shogun 2, especially with some of the classic battle tournaments I've played, is how effective those spear walls can be. You can't engage them from the front. Gotta do good, basically just go around. But I hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time. Peace.